What's going on, everyone? It's TSG here, and welcome back to another video. Today's video is my Premier League predictions for the 2017-18 season. I wrote them all down here, and I'm going to tell you, of course, reasons why I've put the teams in the position I've put them. Right, who do I think will finish bottom of the Premier League? I think Huddersfield, unfortunately, will be finishing bottom of the league, which kind of sucks because the TV I record my gaming videos on came from Huddersfield. Little story there for you. But yeah, why do I think they'll come in 20th? I think they'll come 20th just because, well, they only got through to the Premier League via the playoffs. And they didn't even finish third in the Championship, so they didn't even finish top of the playoffs. And they only won the playoffs on penalties against Reading. So the players they've brought in, well, they've brought in Tom Ince. He's a Championship player. They've not exactly brought anyone in who's going to really do anything to keep them up. So Huddersfield, 20th. Alright, now coming in 19th, I think will actually be Swansea. Why do I think it'll be Swansea? Well, Swansea were the only team last season to sack 2 managers, not 1, but 2. They sacked Francesco Guidolin early on, sacked Bob Bradley before we even got to January, and then Paul Clement was able to save Swansea. But I just don't think that, Tammy Abraham's a good loan, but I don't think he's going to be enough to keep them up, and I do think Gylfi Sigurdsson will be joining Everton before deadline day. Right now he's still with them, so he could. Right now he's still with Swansea, so he could keep them up. But I do think he's going to leave, which is why I put them that far down. Coming in at the number 18, coming in at 18th place. The other team that got promoted that didn't win the Championship, Brighton. Brighton and Newcastle were battling for the top spot all season last season in the Championship. But Newcastle beat Brighton both times on the pitch and beat them in the league by a point. Now, Brighton did play well in the Championship last season. Definitely the most consistent team. More consistent than Newcastle. But I just don't think that the players that they've brought in are good enough to keep them up. They may be they may do prove a shock and stay up, but I have a feeling that they won't. Coming in at 17th, that will just barely avoid the drop of relegation, is Burnley. Burnley, I think, will have some second season syndrome. They're not going to have I don't feel like they're going to have as good of a season as they did last season. As last season they were shocking away, but fantastic at home. They won nearly every single home game they played, and lost nearly every away game they played. I just don't think that their form will be good enough this season. I just don't think that. I think their away form will maybe get slightly better, but their home form I think will decrease dramatically. They haven't made great signings. They've signed Jonathan Walters and Phil Barsley from Stoke. They've signed Jack Cork from Swansea. That's a good sign. That's a good buy. But I don't think they'll do. I think they'll do slightly worse than they did last season. But I still think they have enough quality to avoid the drop. Right, coming in at 16th place, I've put Crystal Palace. Why have I put Crystal Palace? Well, as good as they were last season when Allardyce came in. Yes, he did lose like his first 4 games in charge, or something like that. Lose 3 and draw 1 in his first 4, but then brought it back. Showed Palace beat Arsenal 3-0, which was quite embarrassing for Arsenal. I just don't think Frank de Boer has it in him to get Palace any higher than 16th place. I mean, Ruben Loftus-Cheek is a good loan from Chelsea. But I just don't see them getting any higher than 16th. I mean, Benteke could take them higher, but I just don't see them getting any higher than 16th. Who I think will finish 15th? Watford. Watford had an amazing first season in the Premier League back in the 15-16 season, winning so many home games that you wouldn't expect them to win, and avoided relegation. Sorry for that. Avoided relegation quite easily. But last season was a completely different story. After getting rid of Quique Sanchez Flores and bringing in Walter Marazzi, they finished 17th, just 1 place above the relegation zone. But luckily, they were too many points ahead of 18th, which was Hull, to be relegated. Now, of course, once Hull got relegated, their manager Marco Silva became the new Watford manager, and I think he did well. He did all right with Hull. He wasn't able to keep them up, but I think they would have finished low, one of the 2 bottom spots if he didn't come in as manager. So I think he'll keep Watford up and get them better and make them have a better season than they did last season. Now, coming in at 14th place in the Premier League, I've put Newcastle United. I followed Newcastle in the Championship quite a lot last season. I always wanted to know what they were doing, as I've grown to like them a lot. Even though Rafa Benitez has said that he's not exactly happy with the transfers for Newcastle. Newcastle are a Premier League sized club, and they've gotten rid of all those French players that Pardew brought in. You know, Stephen Klein brought in Tovan, Remy Cabella, Johan Gouffran, all these terrible French players that Pardew brought in when he was Newcastle manager. Benitez has gotten rid of them, and they've managed to keep Dwight Gale, which is huge because I think he won the Championship Golden Boot last season. He was banging them in for fun, and I think him and along with Jacob Murphy from Norwich and Jonjo Shelvey in that midfield controlling it, I think Newcastle could climb as high as 14th. I definitely think Newcastle will be a Premier League club come the season after this. Who's now coming in 13th place is Stoke City. Stoke have never been a threat to relegation or have never been a team going for anything big, and I think that trend will continue this season. They've gotten rid of their best player, arguably their best player, Marko Arnautovic, to West Ham. That's huge. Shaqiri has just not been the player we thought he'd be when he joined Stoke. He needs to have a huge year this year. But the loan signing of Kurt Zouma, I think that is a fantastic loan for Stoke. Chelsea really should not have let him go on, even on loan. Chelsea shouldn't have let him go there. And if Jack Butland can stay fit, then Stoke have got a great goalkeeper. But I just don't think they're going to score enough goals. This is why I put them 13th. Now, coming in 12th place in the Premier League, I think will be Southampton. Southampton, of course, finished 6th 2 years ago, got into the Europa League. Last season, they got knocked out of the Europa League at the group stage, unfortunately for them. And they finished 8th in the Premier League last season. This season, I think Pellegrino is going to take them four worse off and have them finish 12th, but still just no threat to relegation at all, just around mid-table. I mean, they've gotten rid of Jay Rodriguez, which isn't good for them, and I have a very good feeling Virgil van Dijk will be at either Manchester City, Chelsea, or Liverpool by deadline day. I think Van Dijk will be leaving, and they lost Jose Fonte to West Ham in January of this year, in the January transfer window. So they could be they've gotten rid of one good centre back they have, and now they could be getting rid of the best centre back that they have, as Van Dijk wants to leave Southampton now. But I still think they have. But as usual, it's Southampton. They get rid of their best players, but they always bring up quality players from the academy who can do bits for them, which is why I think they'll finish 12th. Coming bang in the middle, coming just under the bang in the middle of mid-table, I think 11th place will be West Brom. West Brom massively overachieved last season. Tony Pulis got them 10th. They could have actually finished 8th if they kept up a good run, but near the end of the season they just couldn't score. They became the normal Tony Pulis side we know. You hate playing them, but if you can score a goal against them, you've got a chance of banging about at least 2 more. I think West Brom will just finish 1 place below they did last season, as they've gotten rid of Darren Fletcher to Stoke, but I don't think that's a huge loss. They've got Rondon, who's really good, who's their top goal scorer every year, and he's doing very, very well there. They got Jay Rodriguez from Southampton, who I think will do very well for them. They didn't get rid of anyone huge, so I think they'll do just slightly worse than they did last season. 11th. Coming in at 10th, with the team that were all over the place last season, West Ham United. West Ham started last season as bad as they possibly could have. Lost so many games, or drew so many winnable games last season. I mean, Dimitri Payet was the main reason why West Ham was so bad last season. He wasn't motivated. He wasn't getting the players up. Two years ago, when Payet had the amazing season where West Ham finished 7th, all the other players around Payet were playing well because he was playing well, but he was playing terrible, so they were. But Dimitri Payet finally left West Ham in January to go back to Marseille, and they started finally started pulling wins together, beating teams the second time round that they should have beaten the first half of the season. People like Andy Carroll, Michail Antonio, Cheikhou Kouyaté all stepped up after Payet left. And West Ham have done fantastic in the transfer window. They've made great signings. As I mentioned earlier, Marko Arnautovic joined from Stoke. But they also got ex-Manchester United striker Javier Hernandez from Bayer Leverkusen. He was definitely a huge signing. And to get him for less than 20 million is a bargain for him. I'm expecting at least 15 goals this season from him. As West Ham have finally done something in the transfer window. But the only bad thing about this is Slaven Bilic is going to have even more. He's going to have even more pressure now than he's ever had as West Ham manager, because last season they bought Feghouli, Ayew, and Nordvide. Not big names at all. They bought in the transfer window. This season they've actually bought big players that can benefit their squad. I don't think they're quite good enough anymore to get back to that 7th spot with Payet, like they did with Payet. But I think they will finish smack in the middle of the table. Alright, coming in 9th in the Premier League, I put Leicester City. Of course, Leicester, did the most unbelievable underdog story in Premier League history by winning the Premier League when no one thought they would. But then last season it was a bit of a different story. That just like West Ham, they had a horrible start to the season. They ended up sacking Claudio Ranieri out of nowhere. No one saw that coming. People knew he was obviously not doing well, but no one thought he was going to get sacked. And the thing is though, the game they sacked him after was their 2-1 loss in the Champions League quarters, round of 16 first leg, to Sevilla. They actually scored an away goal. But then Craig Shakespeare, the assistant manager, came in to took over for the rest of the season as Leicester manager and saved them massively. He got them to the quarterfinals of the Champions League by getting Leicester to beat Sevilla 2-0 at the King Power Stadium, which was huge. Leicester also won their Champions League group last season. I think they're the first English team, or maybe first team in Champions League history to get to the quarterfinals in their first season in the Champions League ever. So they massively overachieved in the Champions League. And in the league, they fought back incredibly well. And last season I think they finished 10th last season, 10th or 11th. No, they finished 11th. I think they finished 12th actually last season. But I've put them 3 positions higher than last season because, the sign of Harry Maguire, he's not amazing, but he could do a job at centre-back for them. Kelechi Iheanacho, Manchester City should not have let him go, but they did. He's a big signing. Vincent Iborra, he is a massive signing for Leicester from Sevilla in CDM. Of course, on FIFA 17, I played as Sevilla and really enjoyed having Vincent Iborra in my team. So I'm a big fan of Iborra. Now, coming in 8th place is the team that finished 9th last season, Bournemouth. Bournemouth came up to the Premier League came up to the Premier League 2 years ago and did brilliant. They only finished 16th, but they survived quite easily. Last season they overachieved. They're probably the most overachieving side last season out of anyone. But This season, I think they'll do even better. I mean, they've signed Nathan Ake on a permanent deal instead of loaning him, so that's huge for them. Chelsea should not let him go either. They've signed Begovic from Chelsea as well, so they can finally stop playing Artur Boric in goal, and they have a very decent goalkeeper in goal. They've signed Jermaine Defoe from Sunderland on a 1-year deal. Him and Josh King together, that's like 31 goals between them a season. That's huge for Bournemouth. They have a very, very good squad with a good young manager, Eddie Howe. And if Eddie Howe does to Bournemouth, gets Bournemouth where I said I think they finish, someone like Arsenal, Liverpool, Chelsea, Tottenham, maybe not someone like Spurs or Liverpool or Arsenal need to think about grabbing him up, snapping him up off Bournemouth. He's a great manager. With a team like Bournemouth, not known to challenge for anything, and they're getting that high in the table. That's huge. Now finally we're on to the top 7. Coming 7th, I think, will be the team that finished 7th last season, Everton. I don't think Everton will improve or get worse. I think they'll stay exactly where they are now. The loss of Romelu Lukaku to Manchester United is huge for them, as he was their top goal scorer, but they did bring in Sandro Ramirez, who scored 15 goals for Malaga last season in La Liga. They brought Rooney back from Manchester United. They've brought in Davy Klaassen from Ajax, which seems to be promising. They've brought in Jordan Pickford from Sunderland, Michael Keane from Burnley for 30 mil each. So Everton have strengthened their squads. They've basically gotten rid of Lukaku for 90 million and used all the money that they got to strengthen every area of their squad. And I think they've done very well, but without Lukaku, I don't think they'll be able to push up to the top 6. I think they'll stay 7th. On to the top 6. Who I bet no one would probably have predicted it last season. Finishing 6th this season, I think, will be the team that finished 5th last season, Arsenal. Even though Arsenal have signed Alexander Lacazette, I don't think that he will be enough. I mean, look at Sanchez and Ozil. Second is the highest vote they've ever got on Arsenal, and that was 2 years ago, and that's only because Spurs blew it when Leicester won the league. But I don't. And Kolasinac from Schalke seems to be a good signing. I mean, scored against Chelsea in the Community Shield, so he's already got a goal to his name in a competitive game. But as usual, it's Wenger, and he hasn't won a Premier League title this decade. And I don't even think, I think he'll miss out on top 4 again, because look at Man United last season. They finished 6th, but they had Europa League. Arsenal have the Europa League this year, and that could prove very hard. That could make their make their league form worse. That's why I think Arsenal will finish 6th. Now, finishing 5th, I think, will be the team that finished 4th last season, who have their Champions League playoff match next week, first leg, Liverpool. Liverpool did very, very well last season to finally get back into the top 4, as they hadn't done that since the 13-14 season, the Sturridge and Suarez season. But why do I think Liverpool will take a step down rather than a step forward or stay where they were? I think Liverpool will take a step down because I just think that, well, Coutinho could be on his way to Barcelona, and that would be a massive loss. Yes, they are trying. They've missed out on signing Van Dijk, so they're gonna have to keep the same two centre backs of Matip and Lovren again. The signing of Andrew Robertson is big though, from Hull. He's a huge signing because he's the left back, which means James Milner does not have to play left back anymore. For most of the season last season at Liverpool, James Milner was playing left back. He's a central to wide midfielder playing left back. You just don't want that happening, do you? But the signing of Mo Salah, I think for Liverpool is huge because last season they heavily relied on Mane. Once he went to the African Cup of Nations in January, Liverpool were not the same team. I mean, the proof was they lost 3-2 at home to Swansea and Mane was not playing. That was very good proof that they need Mane. But of course, this does all depend whether they get into the Champions League or not. They have to play Hoffenheim. Out of them and Napoli, they were the two teams. Out of Hoffenheim and Napoli were the two teams Liverpool did not want to get in the playoff round, and they got one of those teams. Alright, on to the top four. Who do I think will finish fourth? The current champions, Chelsea, I think will finish fourth. Why? Well, they've only made 3 signings. They've made Antonio Rudiger from Roma, Alvaro Morata from Real Madrid, who snubbed Manchester United, but then missed a penalty in the Community Shield, which kind of makes Manchester United not look stupid for not buying him. And who else did they sign? Oh, Bakayoko from Monaco, yeah. And Caballero from Man City. But Chelsea have only replaced players. Like if they're going to play the 3 at the back, they have Gary Cahill, Azpilicueta, and Rudiger. They don't have any backups, as they sold Nathan Ake to Bournemouth, as I said, and they loaned Zuma to Stoke, so they don't have barely any backup centre backs. Of course, Bakayoko only came in because Manchester United got Matic from Chelsea. So Chelsea have not strengthened their squad, they've just replaced players who have gone. And the only reason they bought in Morata is because they want to get rid of Diego Costa. That's the only reason. They haven't strengthened anything, they've just replaced. That is why I think Chelsea will take a huge step down from 1st to 4th, and they do have Champions League this season as well, which is also going to be another bit of stress. And also, they didn't replace their wing backs. Well, no, not wing backs. They did not replace them. They didn't strengthen their wing back area. If Marcus Alonso or Victor Moses get injured, Chelsea don't have anyone to put in those positions. Now on to the top 3. I think in 3rd place will be the team I support, Manchester United. They massively underachieved last season in the Premier League, not in other competitions. Got to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, won the League Cup, won the Community Shield, and won the Europa League. So Manchester United did win 3 trophies last season, but finished 6th in the Premier League. Luckily, them winning the Europa League has put them back in the Champions League, where they should be. Manchester United have gotten rid of a few players that aren't good. They just don't need or aren't good enough. Of course, they did get rid of Zlatan, but I feel that he will be returning. They will be re-signing him soon, as no other club really wants him. So Manchester United could try and get him back for a few months after the season starts, and have him and Lukaku both play up front together. And of course, Lukaku is a huge signing from Everton. Scored 26 Premier League goals last season. Will he be able to do the same for Manchester United? Who knows, because there's all this thing I like to call the Manchester United curse. Doesn't matter how good of a player you are. Well, some players don't get affected, such as Zlatan, Neymar, Bale, Messi, Ronaldo or Suarez would not get affected by this. But the rest of them, the Manchester United curse is you can be amazing for the club you play at, but once you join Manchester United, you suddenly turn crap. Like Memphis Depay, amazing at PSV, joins Manchester United, suddenly turns terrible. Angel Di Maria, amazing at Real Madrid, suddenly turns terrible at Man United, and then becomes amazing again at PSG. But the sign of Nemanja Matic is huge, because United needed a big CDM, and they've got one. So the other centre mids can now play more attacking, which was something that they weren't able to do last season. Pogba wasn't able to get up the field as much as he'd wanted to, but now, with Matic, he can. And the signing of Victor Lindelof at centre back, because United know how often their centre backs get injured, so they brought another one in, and hopefully Lindelof can do a job. I mean, I've not seen anything of him, as the only time I probably have seen him is Benfica against Dortmund in the Champions League round of 16 last season, and I didn't see much of him there. But yes, I think my beloved Manchester United will finally make it back to the top 4 that they haven't gotten since the 14-15 season in Louis van Gaal's first year. I think Jose will finally get United back in the top 4. On to the top 2. You obviously know who I've not said. And finishing second this season, I think, will be the same team that finished second last season. Yep, I still don't think Tottenham will be good enough to win the Premier League yet. First of all, they've gotten rid of Kyle Walker, their main right back, and Kieran Trippier is injured, so they don't have a right back at the minute. So that's terrible for them. They should not gotten rid of Walker, but they did. But of course, the main thing is the Spurs team last season couldn't win the league. They've not brought anybody in this season. They've made 0 transfers. So I don't know how the squad that couldn't win it last season would be able to win it this season. And hell, it's even a slightly decreased squad with Walker gone. But Pochettino knows how to get his team into the top 4s. He's done it the last 2 years in a row. And I think this season will be no different. He'll be able to get them there. But all their home games this season are played at Wembley, and they had a curse last season at Wembley in the Champions League where they couldn't win a game. And they have Champions League football again this year, which is big. And Manchester United, of course, have Champions League now. So that's going to be another strain on them. So we've gone through 19 teams so far. and we haven't come to the number 1 spot yet. And who I think the winners of the Premier League next season will be Manchester City. They've spent 120 million on fullbacks alone. They've spent over 200 million, the only Premier League team to spend over 200 million this season so far. Bringing in Mendy at left back for Kolarov and Clichy, who they've gotten rid of. Of course, they're getting rid of their old fullbacks and bringing in younger ones. They've brought in Danilo from Real Madrid, who can play left back or right back. And of course, at right back, they've brought in Kyle Walker. They've of course got rid of Iheanacho, which is a terrible decision, because what if Aguero or Gabriel Jesus gets injured? If either of them get injured, Man City have no backups. Of course, I think Kevin De Bruyne will have another outstanding season for Manchester City. Ilkay Gundogan can maybe show us this season what he wasn't able to show us last season after he got injured in December and was out for the rest of the season. Of course, Manchester City signed Bernardo Silva so early on. I think they signed Bernardo Silva before the Champions League final happened. That's how early they made their first signing. But yes, I think Manchester City will be the Premier League champions this season. Alright, if you guys did enjoy this video, please be sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so you never miss a video, follow me on Twitter, Instagram and Snapchat. They're all in my channels, the channel about section, and I will see all you guys in a video later. Goodbye.